Hey friends, it's Becky L. McCoy, and this is Sucker Punched. This is episode 49 of Sucker Punched. Today I am bringing you a super special episode. This is my conversation with HK, Derryberry, and Jim Bradford, and their story is just so incredibly special. So I'm not going to say anything other than listen to their story, buy their book and read it, share it, give it as a Christmas present, and support them in any way that you can, because these are two really, really special humans, and they deserve all the love and support that they can get. I am here today with HK Derryberry and Jim Bradford, and they have this awesome book called The Awakening of HK Derryberry. So Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, it's hard to tell in a short period of time, but I'll certainly try to do the best I can. 18 years ago, actually our anniversary, 18-year anniversary of our friendship and first meeting occurred on the 16th of October of this year.
Oh, how fun.
So 18 years ago, it was a Saturday morning, and kind of like this morning, both here in Tennessee and in Connecticut, it was our first cold morning of, I'm going to say, fall. It was an October day that just was in the low 50s that day for the high, and it was a Saturday morning, and I had played tennis, something I had been doing with friends of mine for a number of years. Every Saturday we played indoors, and we met at a McDonald's restaurant near the tennis facility where we played on Saturday mornings. We'd meet about 7 o'clock, and about 8:30 we would go over to the tennis center, play to 10. Typically we would, when the match was over, 4 old guys playing, we pretty hot and sweaty and tired, but we would hang around the tennis center for 30 minutes, just kind of cooling off and talking about family matters, what we had planned for the weekend. But anyway, this particular morning, for some reason, as we played tennis, all I could think about was another cup of coffee. So when we ended the tennis match that morning, instead of my hanging with the guys for 30 minutes like we typically did, I told them bye and immediately left. I live in Brentwood, Tennessee, which is south of Nashville, about maybe 15 minutes from downtown. And so I drove to Brentwood and to get a cup of coffee. And instead of going to Starbucks, which was my original destination and my original thought for an hour and a half playing tennis, I saw a sign in the air 30 feet, red and white, said, Mrs. Winter's Chicken and Biscuits. And for some reason, I was exactly 1 mile from Starbucks, but I turned in to this chicken restaurant to buy my coffee. Today, I tell people that at that time, I had never heard the term GPS, but I truly believe God was my GPS that morning. Because I was, for some reason, turned left, drove into the parking lot of this little restaurant. The parking lot was full of potholes. The restaurant needed some repairs. It was a red and white tile-type building, and I went into the chicken place to buy my gourmet coffee, fixed my coffee, and saw a little boy sitting at a table by himself as I was about to leave, listening to a radio, and he appeared to be about 5 years old, but I later found out after I met him, he was actually 9 years old, but he was very, very small. He had on, it was cold morning, he had on a T-shirt with food stains on it, needed a haircut, had on some shorts that were a little bit too small for him, but what I noticed, he had braces on both legs, and I instantly realized something was wrong with the little boy. So I had my coffee that I'd fixed just perfectly, a couple of creams, 2.5 sugars, it tasted just perfect, and as I turned to leave the restaurant, and I might tell you also, Becky, up until this point in my life, if I saw someone, especially a child with special needs, I felt sorry for them, had pity for them, but I never approached them. I didn't know if I was supposed to. Even if I did, I certainly wouldn't have known what to say. I just tried to avoid staring at them for fear that the parents might catch me and it would be embarrassing. But as I turned and saw this little boy, and I noticed he had the braces on the legs, I was curious. So I asked the lady behind the counter, I said, "Who's the little boy?" She said, "Well, that's HK. He's our sweetheart." I said, "Who is he?" She said, "Well, the lady who sold you the coffee, her name's Pearl. That's his grandmother." And I said, "What's he doing here?" She said, "Well, she can't afford a babysitter on weekends, so she brings him and he sits and listens to radio while she works." And I said, "How long does he sit?" She said, "Only from 8 till 5.
Oh.
And here's what I know: something's wrong with him, and if you calculate that, that's about 19 hours on Saturday and Sunday. He might be sitting listening to radio.
Yep.
I said, "You've got to be kidding." And she said, it offended her, I think. She said, "Well, he doesn't do it every day. He goes to school during the week." And as I'm about to leave, I turn and I'm about to walk by the little boy like I've done I was 56 years old. And for 56 years, I'm about to walk by this little boy, that something's wrong with him, and I'm not going to talk with him, and I'm not going to really look at him. But as I'm leaving, she says, "Oh, yes, and he is blind." And when she said that, I was touched like I had never been touched ever in my life. And I went right to his table, and I said, "Hey, buddy, what's your name?" And he said,
"I'm HK. What's your name?"
"I'm Jim."
Nice to meet you.
"Oh, well, nice to meet you, HK.
Where do you live?
I live in Brentwood.
What street?
I live on Harpeth River Drive."
What's that off?
Now, we'll stop right there, Paul, if you can.
Becky.
But HK, Becky, I'm sorry. Becky could not, HK, I'm getting confused here, Becky.
That's
I just
okay.
got off the phone with a lady named Paula. But HK couldn't carry on the conversation. All he could do was ask me, "What did you do next? What did you do next?" I felt like I was being interrogated by the FBI. And so after about 3 minutes, I said, "HK, Brenda, my wife, has some things I've got to do today, and I've got a list of things I have to do. I've got to go, but it sure has been nice meeting you."
Nice to meet you, too. Hope to see you again soon.
Well, me too. And I didn't realize at that point I had just made at least an 18-year commitment. And so when I got in the car, Becky, I had my coffee that was just perfect about 5 minutes earlier. I put it in a cup holder, and I never took the top off, never took a sip of coffee, because I couldn't get the little boy off my mind. And so I started coming back. I came back the next Saturday, and I started coming back every Saturday. If he was there, I'd go in and sit with him at his table. And after the third Saturday, I said, "HK, let me tell you explain the rules." I said, "Every Saturday in the winter, I do about the same thing. I get up early in the morning. I go play tennis, then I go do things like getting oil changed in the car, the dry cleaners, grocery shopping if Brenda needs something." But I said, "That's what I do every week. And if you keep asking these, 'What did you do next?' kind of questions," I said, "I'm not coming back to see you. You've got to start answering my questions." And I immediately found out how smart he was, because he has never, ever asked those questions again. So I continued coming back every Saturday, and if he was there, I'd go in and spend 30 to 60 minutes with him. And after about maybe the 12th visit that I had with him, when I would say bye and get up to leave, he would get out of his chair as best he could, grab me around the waist, and cry. And his grandmother told me, she called me one Monday morning at the office, said, "Mr. Bradford said, let me tell you why he does that. All the men that have ever been friends that he felt like were friends of his, were customers here at the restaurant. They would stop by his table and talk with him and spend a little bit of time with him. But for some reason, maybe they quit eating chicken for their meal, so they started going to a different restaurant, and they never came back. And now, like you, he thinks you're his friend, and every time you say bye to him, he's afraid you'll be like those other men were, and you never come back to see him." And so, anyway, after you're told that, I don't know how you could not go back. But anyway, we've been going back, and just that's how the friendship started.
Yeah, it's so fun, and that it your whole friendship has turned into this book, and you guys are talking and just encouraging. So, tell me a little bit about HK. I know that I haven't gotten to read the whole book yet, but I've read a bunch of your story, and you've had quite a lot of challenges. You've had a really challenging life, but you're somebody that people are so encouraged by and inspired by. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, one thing I
You
tell,
might just tell her about your birth and the 96 days
I was
in the
born,
hospital.
I was born for 3 months premature
Mm-hmm.
due to an accident that took my mother's life, and I spent 96 days in the hospital at Vanderbilt Medical Center, neonatal intensive care. That 96 days, I had heart surgery to tie off a heart valve that had opened, and I had eye surgeries, and I had a brain bleed, which caused my cerebral palsy,
Mm-hmm.
and the blindness was caused by being on the oxygen too long. When I had my heart surgery, because when I first noticed I needed surgery, my body wasn't strong enough for the surgery. I only weighed 2 pounds, 4.5 ounces.
Wow.
Yeah.
And because of during that time that he was in the neonatal intensive care for 96 days, they had to put him on pure oxygen, as he mentioned, to get him strong enough for the surgery.
Yep.
But leaving him too long on the oxygen, that caused his retinas not to develop, and that's why he's blind.
Mm-hmm.
And then about halfway through that 96-day period, one day he had a brain bleed, and they thought they might lose him. He survived that, although he had a stroke, so he's paralyzed on his right side. And but he overcame that, but he has cerebral palsy as a result of it. So he has just, sure enough, overcome a lot. And after he was released after 96 days, he has seizures, which is controlled today by medications. He's very susceptible to having asthma, pneumonia, and so he's been in and out of neonatal intensive care up until probably 7 or 8 years old numerous times. But it seems like as he's gotten older, he's overcome a lot of those medical issues, although he still has to take medications twice a day, a number of pills, about 10 a day, matter of fact, for various things. Has to have eye drops. He also has to have breathing treatments every day. And so it's just, it's just amazing and remarkable how he's overcome those. And he's the most positive person I have ever met. So I think it's just a way for him, and he doesn't see it as a hardship at all. It's just something he has to live with. And so he focuses himself on the positive parts of life rather than the negative parts.
Yeah, HK, that's awesome, because there are so many people who have had lots of different things going on in their life too that just don't have that positive point of view and lose hope pretty quickly. What was it like for you that Jim came and he started sitting with you on Saturdays, and he is still hanging out with you like 18 years later, and he's still such a great friend? What is that like?
Well, I just think of him as part of my family now.
Mm-hmm.
He has changed my life. He lets me do things that normal boys my age get to do, that I had never gotten to do. He become a father figure to me, which I had never really had, because my father abandoned me at age 5 for 10 years. Mr. Bradford let me borrow his eyes. What I mean by that is, seeing is how I can't see. He has painted word pictures for me so I could visualize things he was seeing. He told me he loved me. He told me he was proud of me. He's proud to introduce me to his friends. He told me I would be a success in life. He and his wife Brenda even buy me clothes so I look like other young men my age. 18 years later, Mr. Bradford still lets me borrow his eyes, and he never charges me any rent for them.
That's so wonderful. I just love looking at all these pictures in your book of the two of you together. And you can, I mean, it's just so clear how much you both love each other. And, you know, you have very different life stories. But like HK, like you said, it's obvious that you are like family now. And that is just, it's just so cool. Like it's just awesome. I run out of words because it's just so incredible to see. Like, HK, you needed a friend, and Jim, from the talks that we've had and from what I've read of you guys, it sounded like you needed HK's friendship just as much.
Well, you know, I didn't realize anything was missing in my life, and maybe it wasn't when I met him, but I have two grown daughters, and when I met HK 18 years ago, both of them were out of school, out of college, and they had left home. And what I have found is that by giving HK the amount of time that I have given him, it basically has not altered too much my lifestyle, because it seems like Brenda and I still do all the things we used to do, although we've gotten 18 years older. But, you know, I think most people, I would tell them, hey, if you can develop a friendship like I have with HK, certainly do it, because you'll find a way to revamp your schedule to allow you to be great friends with a person that needs a friend, and it'll still not alter your lifestyle as you know it today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you had talked about how before you met HK, talking with people who had a visual disability or different abilities and different needs made you really uncomfortable, and you didn't know how to interact with them, and but you just kind of felt pushed to get to know him. How has that changed, and how would you encourage people who feel that same awkwardness and they don't really know how to initiate a conversation or a relationship?
Well, you know, I think I would tell people to do exactly what I did the day I met HK. And had the person that the lady I asked about who he was, why he was there, had she not said that he was blind, I might have walked right by him and never have gone back and met him. But I would tell people that, and I do tell people, he and I are motivational speakers today, so we share our story all over the country. And one of the things I try to tell people is kind of a wrap-up to what we do is that all of you are going to meet an HK at some point in your life. It may not be a young man that's got visual impairment, it may not be someone with cerebral palsy, but it may be somebody that is a neighbor. It may be somebody that has children problems, family problems, financial problems, job problems. Somebody needs a friend. Mm-hmm. And if you reach out and become that friend, you're going to impact two lives, and that's yours and theirs. And like I say, I didn't know what to say to HK that day. I just walked over and said, hey, buddy, what's your name?
Yeah.
And here we are 18 years later. We're best of friends.
That's so fun. HK, what do you love most about Jim?
Just the fact that he is like a father to me. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he takes me places that I would have never gotten to go without him.
Yeah, that's really special. Jim, what do you love about HK?
Well, I think probably there's just so much about HK, but one of the things is there's a couple of things that just come to mind immediately. First off, he is never, ever negative. His whole personality is all positive. And, you know, if you've had disabilities maybe all of your life, you might even begin to think you're normal, and a person like me might not be normal. And I'll give you an example. A year or so after meeting HK, I applied for and got a handicap placard to put on my mirror in my vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I did that so that when we go places, I can park closer to the entrance to the buildings. One Saturday morning, Brenda gave me a grocery list and said, I need these things from the grocery store. And so HK was with me. We went to the grocery store, parked in a handicap space, and I don't use the handicap placard unless it's with me, so it was in my glove box, and I'm flipping through the glove box trying to find it, and HK says,
"What are you looking for, man?"
I said, "Well, HK, I'm looking for my handicap placard."
"Oh, Mr. Bradford, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were handicapped."
I'm not handicapped. You are.
"Oh, I forgot."
That's awesome.
Well, that's a true story.
I believe it.
He was feeling sorry for me because he thought I had a handicap he didn't know about. But I would tell people just approach the people, and if it's awkward the first time, it won't be the second time. And what's happened to me today, Becky, you said, what do you do today? Well, anytime today I see anybody with a disability, I typically go over and introduce myself to them. And if it's parents with a child that might be, let's say, Down syndrome that you obviously know by their appearance, maybe a child that might be in a wheelchair, I go over and introduce myself to the parents first, and I say, "Hi, I'm Jim Bradford. Is this your child?" "Yes, it is." "Do you mind if I say hi to them?" And I usually say, "I have a friend that is he's blind with cerebral palsy. And I've been his friend and mentor now for 18 years. Do you mind if I speak to your child?" Well, when you tell people that just kind of takes the pressure off. And I have found that parents are, there's a special feeling they get when people recognize them or recognize their child.
Yeah.
And I have spoken to children that cannot communicate. They can't talk. But if you talk to them and they can hear you, it's amazing sometimes a smile, or maybe if you're holding their hand, they grip you or give you a little firmer, tighter grip when you talk to them. You just know that you're reaching them, and it's just special. And I just can't imagine anybody that meets somebody like, especially when I first met HK at 9 years old, although he looked about 5 years old, that, I just thought he was about the cutest little guy I'd ever seen. And if that doesn't touch your heart and make you want to reach out to folks and at least, if nothing else, just be a friend for that 10 minutes that you spend with them. I just can't imagine people not feeling the same way that I did.
Yeah. HK, what do you want people to know about you?
Well, anything in life is possible. If you work hard, determine what your capabilities are, maintain positive attitude, you can accomplish most anything in life within your capabilities. The only disability any of us have in life is a negative attitude. So I encourage all you to always be positive. If you are ever down, depressed, just make pain, can't get any worse, just pick up the phone, call toll-free to OHK in Nashville. I will give you a no-charge, 100% money-back guaranteed Sucker Punch pep talk.
That is awesome. I love it. I wanted to just take a quick minute to thank you for being a listener of Sucker Punched. It has just been such an honor and a privilege to help people share their stories, to connect you with stories that otherwise you probably would not have heard. If this is an episode that you're really enjoying, please share it with a friend. And if you listen to the podcast regularly, consider sharing that too. Sharing word of mouth is just about the greatest way to be able to spread the podcast love. It would also be really helpful if you could leave a review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast and rate it. I'm going to send some fun mail to a few people who have left reviews, so this is your chance to do that. All right, back to my conversation with HK and Jim. What of the things that you've accomplished, because you've accomplished so much, what are you most proud of?
Well, that's a tough question, but I guess graduating high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, was that really hard? Especially like having...
Well, I think it was easy.
Yeah?
Especially the last few years.
But Becky, I might tell you that after I had gotten to know HK and I started going to his school for the IEP meetings. That's where they, do the evaluations. The teachers tell how he's doing in a classroom environment. The teachers, I might tell you where he went to school, they didn't have a lot of confidence in HK's abilities in terms of graduation from high school. They just didn't think, first off, he was smart enough, nor he was capable of taking a full regular curriculum. And one teacher, and this is, if we're speaking to educators, I just always say, never give up on one child. So, you just never know what that child can wind up being in life. But one teacher believed in him, and he would go to the staff and say, we need to put HK in a graded class environment, give him a regular curriculum. We know that with his stroke, he's half the speed of the other students in doing his schoolwork, but he's got a normal IQ, and he's a smart young man. And so they eventually said, well, okay, we'll let's put him in a graded class environment. He was old enough to do it, and they put him in the 8th grade. And after 9 weeks, he was failing miserably. And they said, Bill Shank, they said, Bill, we told you so. And he's disruptive to the class. He's slowing the teachers down, and they had a number of excuses. Bill said, let's don't give up on him. Maybe he's not mature enough for the 8th grade. Let's move him back. So they put him in the 6th grade. 9 weeks later, he made the honor roll. And after that, there was just no stopping. And he did so well that year, the rest of the year, as a 6th grader. The next year, he bypassed the 7th grade and went right to the 8th grade. And it was just no stopping. So, it wasn't an easy thing. He said it was easy, but it wasn't. It really wasn't easy because for him to do, he had to pass algebra to graduate. And that's a tough subject for almost any child. And the fact that he's a blind boy that is using a Braille machine with just one hand because he has a stroke with his right hand, it made it even more challenging. And if his grandmother or I we don't do Braille, so if he was doing homework, we didn't know if he had a math problem correct or not until his teacher graded the next day. But anyway, he overcame all of that, and he is a high school graduate. He took every course required in the state of Tennessee to get a high school diploma, and he's just so proud of that.
Yeah, HK, that's awesome. I used to teach high school, so, I've been around a lot of the teachers who make a lot of assumptions about students, like it sounds like a lot of those teachers were making about you. But I am just so glad that you had that one teacher who knew that you could do it, and you just had to figure out the right place to start. That's so awesome. Jim, what are you most proud of HK for?
Well, I think there's, there's just hundreds of things that pop in my mind. But I think the main thing is today, thinking back 18 years ago when I met him as a little boy that was 9 years old but looked 5, weighed about 52 or 53 pounds, couldn't carry on a conversation, probably didn't have much of an outlook for a future other than sitting at the restaurant listening to radio. And then today, to see this young man at 27 years old sit on a stage with me in front of 1,000 people sharing our story, and he's got them laughing, he's got them crying, he's got them interrupting us with applause, and then when we complete our presentations, we always get standing ovations. And for me to see that, I just see that God is still in the miracle business, because here's this little boy that nobody gave him much chance in life. even the doctors didn't think he would live. They gave him a 10% chance of living, surviving the wreck that killed his mother. And so when I see him entertaining an audience, and when we finish our presentations, we have a book out today that you mentioned. We'll sign books. But HK has gotten to where he appeals to people and touches people in such a way that I don't let him sit by me anymore signing books. I've got a rubber stamp with his caricature on it that says, lovely, lovely, lovely HK. We stamp the book. I move him to the side of our table because people line up to meet him and get their picture made with him. He also has this memory, which is just unbelievable. So if you give him your birth date, month, day, and year, he immediately tells you what day of the week you were born. And people just love that because most people don't know. And then he sometimes will even say, well, on your birthday when you were 6, this happened, or these things happened on certain dates of your birthday. So just watching him entertain an audience and be professional and earn a living today, because we're funding a trust fund for everything he earns speaking. So I don't know. I'm 74 years old today. I don't know how many more years I'll have to be in great health to do it with him. I hope he keeps me young for a long time.
Well,
but my goal is to build the net worth of his trust fund so that one day when I'm no longer available to do it with him, he can live comfortably. And what he's learned today in the gift of speaking to audiences, as long as he has somebody that's a mentor that has the patience that, and I'll say that I've had, although I don't like to say it that way, that can help him go to the events, help him prepare his presentations. He can live his life very comfortably, very fully, and I think one of these days he'll be considered one of the outstanding inspirational speakers in America.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, HK, I'm going to give you my birthday. You ready?
yes.
Okay, I was born on August 13th, 1986.
You were born on a Wednesday,
That's right.
and your birthday was on Friday the 13th in 93, 99, 2004, and 2010. Real quick, on your birthday, 2004 was the opening ceremony of the Summer Olympic Games in Athens, Greece.
You got it, man. It's been a great day to have a birthday. And do you know that I was born on the same day as Alfred Hitchcock and Fidel Castro?
I didn't realize that.
Well,
no.
there you go. You can add that to your August 13th file.
Yes.
Awesome. All right.
He'll never forget.
I will never forget your birthday, and you don't look a day over 18.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, I have some fun questions for you guys so everybody can get to know you a little better. So I'm going to ask the question, and then you can both answer it. So the first question is, what are you loving right now?
Well, what am I loving?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just doing my motivational speaking. I've been staying in hotels.
Can I have this one?
Oh, hold on just a second. Libby, yes, you can have this, but go in the living room. I'm still on the phone, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, take the whole thing. Go put the wrapper in the garbage.
Sound like I heard an inquisitive 5-year-old.
That was the 2-year-old, yeah.
Oh, 2-year-old. Okay. Well, I think the same thing probably applies to me. What are we doing for fun these days? Is HK and I this year we have been invited. If we get no more invitations, we have been invited to speak to groups this year about 50 times.
Wow.
And we will, based on the number that we've already spoken to and the projected audiences of our remaining speaking gigs for this month in December, we will actually have spoken to more than 20,000 people this year. And we've traveled to states, of course, almost every state that he goes to are places he's never been before.
Yeah.
And I just think the fact that we are making an impact on people's lives, or at least that's the comment. We spoke this morning at a Rotary Club, and I've already had some phone calls today saying, I want to tell you the impact that your presentation had on me. I've talked to my wife about it, and we're just amazed. And I'd like to find out when you guys are going to be speaking again close by, so I could bring my wife. But it was just some people say it's life changing. You're the best speakers we've ever had, and when you hear those kind of things, it certainly makes you feel good. But we're doing something that we enjoy doing. We think it's benefiting the people that hear our story, and then financially, it's helping him build a trust fund balance so that one day he can live comfortably, hopefully for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really wonderful. What is your favorite meal or snack or food?
Well, I love all food in general, but one of my favorite is a number one meal from Chick-fil-A,
Awesome.
which includes chicken sandwich, waffle fries, and sweet tea.
We don't have very much Chick-fil-A up here in the north, but I do enjoy it when I get to go. What about you, Jim?
HK is, if it wasn't a location where Chick-fil-A, he loves chicken fingers or chicken strips, any restaurant he goes to. And partly, it not only maybe it satisfies his hunger and tastes good to him, but with his cerebral palsy, he basically has a difficult time using utensils to eat.
Yep.
So if it's a chicken sandwich, I cut them up in 4 pieces and quarters, and that's the way he eats it. If it's chicken strips, I cut them up, and he can actually pick them up with his hand. So he likes things like chicken nuggets, chicken strips with French fries that he can pick up and eat easily. But, that's kind of his thing.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Jim?
But his favorite 2 words are eat and food, so it really doesn't matter if it's chicken or not. Well, for me, when he and I are together, typically I say, where do you want to go? If I give him choices, if there's a Chick-fil-A in the area, he always says Chick-fil-A. But I grew up in a rural area of North Alabama. I lived in kind of a rural area with my grandparents, and we typically ate a lot of vegetables. And for almost every meal, we had biscuits for breakfast, homemade by my grandmother. For noon meals and evening dinners, we typically had rolls or cornbread that she made from scratch. And so when I'm out, I love to eat at places. Well, I mean, we're with Brenda, my wife. We're a little more upscale. But if I'm with HK or place, I love to eat at places like we call here in the South meat and threes, where they have fresh vegetables and 3 or 4 meats that you can choose from. Maybe you guys have Cracker Barrel restaurants up in your area along the interstate. I love those because they usually have just consistently good food. But I love vegetables and things like that. And I don't necessarily eat a lot of fried foods, although I like fried chicken. But I love vegetables and things that I feel are kind of healthy for me. My wife would probably say, well, what he eats is not healthy, because what I do is all the fruit and salads and stuff like that. I eat healthy. He eats. He doesn't eat that way, but that's kind of what I like.
Yeah. HK, what are you doing to take care of yourself?
Well, taking care.
Well, tell her about your exercise routine.
Well, my exercise, like many of you, I love sports. I've always wanted to play sports. I figure my disabilities, I'll never have the opportunity. But just in case opportunity ever presents itself, like Becky McCoy, I have always tried to stay in great tip-top physical condition for the past 10 years. Every morning, my Becky McCoy exercise routine includes I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. I try to be real quiet, not to wake my grandmother up. Then I put on my walking shoes and my Marcus Mariota Tennessee Titans sports attire. Then I woke up a big sweat by walking around the block 3 times as fast as I can. Then I stop take a few deep breaths to relax, then bend over, pick up the block, put the block back in the closet, then climb back in bed, sleep to 10.
That sounds like a great routine.
That's part of his humorous story he sometimes tells when he's speaking.
Yeah, I love it.
But he's one of the things I try to do when HK's with me. He is mobile with assistance. He, doctors have told his grandmother, or especially back early in his life, that he probably would be confined to a wheelchair, but she never wanted that to happen. So we have HK walking. We have to hold his left hand, his good hand, and but I try to have him walking a lot, so he's getting some exercise. And because I don't want him to be stationary all the time, just sitting, listening to radio. So anytime that he's with me, we're in and out of the car, and if we're on a speaking assignment someplace, staying in a hotel, he's walking all the time, and sometimes I have to realize that I'm taking 2 steps, or he's taking 2 steps for every one that I have to take, and sometimes am I moving too fast? He said no, but I try to keep him walking as much as possible, getting exercise. I try to, when he's with me also, when we're having meals, I try to limit the amount that he consumes, and then try to keep him at least eating as much healthy things as we can. So, I'm very conscious of his diet as much as he is.
Yeah, for sure. Jim, what do you do to take care of yourself?
Well, I at one time, a few years ago, I was a tennis player and a runner and things like that. As I've gotten older, at age 74, I began to have some problems with my knees and pulling muscles, so I don't play tennis as much as I used to. But I walk a lot. I lift some light weights, basically watch my diet so that, I kind of keep an eye on my waistline, and I'm heavier than I was, let's say, as a high schooler, but
aren't we all?
On the charts, I'm probably maybe 3 pounds over where I should weigh for my size. But basically, it's kind of watching food and walking a lot and doing some light work with some light weights.
Yeah. And I want to know, what are you both doing to live bravely?
Bravely?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. Now, that's a question I'll have to think about what you mean by bravely. As far as safely, HK is like, being with HK with his memory is like having your own traveling personal secretary. He doesn't forget anything. His memory is such that for 18 years, our friendship, I have never missed one of our anniversaries. I have not missed my daughter's birthdays nor my grandchildren's birthdays, because he reminds me every morning when he wakes up and says, "Oh, Mr. Bradford, you do know Thursday is your anniversary. You do have Brenda a gift, don't you?"
Good job, HK.
Whether I do or not, I say, "Well, thank you, HK. We better get in the car and go someplace." But from a brave standpoint, from a safety standpoint, one of the things he reminds me every time we get in the vehicle, "Mr. Bradford,
buckle your seatbelt."
Buckle your seatbelt.
That's right.
And part of that is from maybe advertising on TV, but I think part of it is his grandmother has told him so many times that his mother, who was killed in the traffic accident when she was pregnant with HK, was not wearing her seatbelt. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not sure why. Maybe it was because she was pregnant, but she didn't have the seatbelt on. The father had his on, and even though the car was totaled, the father had a small bruise on his ribs and a little cut on his lip, but the mother was thrown from the vehicle. So that may be one of the reasons he's very cautious on that. But and I guess the other thing, too, is from a brave standpoint, we have had some invitations to speak at events that I would just be surprised, and I'd even tell the people that invited us, I'd say, "How did you select us? Because we don't have an expertise in your field." And so we have stepped out of our comfort zone sometimes and spoken to groups that you would not expect us to speak to, and the reaction and the results are the same as all the places we go where people say, "Oh my gosh, y'all were the best we've ever had. What a moving experience. What a great story." And here's two guys in Nashville, Tennessee we're professionals because we charge fees, but we're probably amateurs compared to other professional speakers. But in December, on December the 6th, we're going to the Grand Cayman Islands, and we're speaking at a global hedge fund symposium where 300 financial professionals from over 10 countries are going to be in attendance, and we are their featured speakers. And so that's kind of stepping out a little bit of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But we will do our same thing. We hope we get the same results. We've been rehearsing here recently our British accent, but we still sound Southern to me. And but anyway, that's kind of a neat thing, and it's the first time we had to have passports to go travel to speak. But that's speaking to an audience that you normally would expect they would be getting maybe somebody that's more in their career field. But we're going to do our very best to make it the very best they've ever heard. So I guess if we're doing it bravely, that would be one of the things. If it's doing safely, we always are cautious about traveling and buckling the seatbelt and that's just doing the best we can to make sure that we're safe in everything we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. HK, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
Well, I want to share with you listeners that y'all can go to my website, hkderryberry.com, like my fan page. On November 25th, we're going to be on the Mike Huckabee Show on TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, at 7 and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. And on Saturday night, the 25th, and Sunday night, the 26th.
That is awesome. All of the HK's Facebook page and website and everything will be in the show notes so that people can keep track of where, literally in the world, are Jim and HK. Well, thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you very much for having us, and I know that you've mentioned our book. It's the feedback we get from the book is the fact that most people have said, Jim, you need to tell your people who buy your book for the first time to eat a meal before they read the book because it's hard to put it down once you stop.
That's awesome.
An easy read. It's very inspirational, got a lot of humorous stories. And you can go to HK's website also and find out how to get the book. It's in most bookstores and online booksellers. It's very easy to get it. And we just hope that if members of the audience that listens to your podcast, if they hear it and want a great inspirational read or maybe some great gifts for Christmas, buy our book, The Awakening of H.K. Derryberry, My Unlikely Friendship with the Boy Who Remembers Everything.
Aren't those guys just awesome? I just love hearing their story, a story of such a great friendship and how circumstances and life stage and all that, it really doesn't matter. You can be a great friend and really love and care for someone no matter who you are or what your life looks like. If you are interested in getting to know more about HK and Jim or get their book, you can head to their website. They do speaking engagements. So check them out and book them for your event. That would be a great way to support them. And as Jim has said, all the money that they make from these speaking engagements go towards a trust for HK, just to help with his living expenses and whatnot. So go ahead and leave them some love. Next week is the final episode of season 2 of Sucker Punched. My friend Heather Bender and I are going to do something a little different for that last episode. We're going to do a quick review of all of season 2 and then have a conversation about what does it mean to focus on your process instead of your end result or your product. All right, friends. Have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you, or I won't see you. See, really, can someone please coach me on how to end these episodes? It's terrible every time. Need a catchphrase. There's your mission. Come up with a catchphrase. Send me an email or find me on social media anywhere at Becky L. McCoy. Have a great week. Bye.